Right. Good morning. Good. You can hear some noise out there. Where do we want to be? How are you all doing? Let's see, shall we, what we want to do. I can't get my visualiser to work at all. So I did print out the Borne extract and I was going to analyse that with you. However, it doesn't want to work. I'm not entirely sure why. So instead, let's see if we can do this together. So this is from a novel called Borne. It's an absolutely brilliant novel. It's a weird dystopian one. It's futuristic, the stuff about time travel. But I thought that there was enough going on in here that we could pick out some key things. Also, maybe this is a good opportunity to show you that how you can do it without a printer. I was just going back there to check that I'm still recording. So, yeah, it's, do you know what this novel is about? No, in fact, I can't say that, can I? Because we're going in as an unseen, so be quiet, Julie. But yeah, if you wanted something else to read while you're off, then get a copy of this. So, this is a world laid waste by a biotech company called Simply Company. Maud, M-O-R-D, is a massive flying bear, more than 5 stories high, terrorises its survivors. These include humans, mutants, animals and hybrid creatures which are revealed to be failed or aborted biotech experiments. So that context tells us that there's something a bit futuristic about sci-fi going on. We've got our first clue, haven't we, from this thing about company. So, I tell you what I'm going to do, because I'm not daft. I'm making a copy before I start upsetting the original, because I've got a habit of doing that. So, you should have done your 15-minute read through, your skim, scan, scour. Obviously, that's a little bit harder to do your initial annotating when you are on the computer. Okay, so what note would I make there? So I'm thinking that the word company is it's making me think of words like regime, kind of faceless, cold. I'm putting money because I'm thinking something going on here about just like business. Okay, so where do we go? The little foxes and their kin were slinking all around us by now, and winking in and out of view as if slipping into and out of space, of time. She couldn't see that she was surrounded by... Shut the door. Sorry. A congregation, that she was surrounded by people of a kind. I had almost missed it myself, had misunderstood it for too long. Okay, really ambiguous opening. What are we supposed to do with this? We've got foxes, so why have we got these real animals? Reminds me of the, those ice fox things that help in Star Wars. Winking in and out of view as if slipping into and out of space of time. Is this real? Is this metaphorical? I'm not sure yet. And this is how most of my annotations start. I want to keep asking questions. Who's she? Who? And that word congregation. That's interesting, isn't it? Because it has connotations of religion. I had almost missed it, had misunderstood it for too long. What has been misunderstood? Oops. Well, we don't know yet. The magician pointed to the screen again. Magician. Right. Does that sound very dystopian? No. But it's something weird about identity. And the screen, first hint at something to do with technology. Okay. That's where it all went, what it was all for. They sent supplies through to us. They took and took from the city, and we sent products back, not through a railway system or an underground tunnel, but through that. Okay, so this screen has been repurposed, and we've got references to archaic I'm putting items. I'm not really sure what to put at the moment. It was a pretty enough scene from a place undamaged by war, untouched by ruination by the company. Right, so effects of war, and that word ruination suggests something more. Is that hyperbolic or is that just accurate? And also that word untouched. So often in dystopias we get this contrast, don't we, between what is what's been damaged and what remains. So I'm thinking about contrasts there. Okay. It kept flickering, stayed frozen, but never came back into focus. But I could tell it was whole and functional and rich, and all of the other things our city was not and might never be. But it also wasn't real, and it wasn't going to save us, any of us, and I refused to give it agency, allow it into my reality. Okay, so things have just got a lot more confusing, but so I'm certainly thinking of interesting things to say about setting here. Contrasts. When she says, I'm assuming when she says real, again, does that mean that it actually isn't physically real, or is it just not real to the character because it can't save us? Do you see the difference? Things haven't gone into it for a few years, the magician said. By the time I realised it might exist, this level was just a myth, a rumour, and might as well be now. Although they kept sending things to us for a while, didn't they? Like those, gesturing at the boxes, what had dribbled out of them. Ooh. Okay, what on earth? Dribbled is a weird word. Babies dribble. But also dribbled suggests little things coming out of them. So something to do with creatures, infection. What's in these boxes? I didn't think the magician had peered into the other rooms. She hadn't seen even the little I'd seen. What else the fox and her companions had ransacked, brought out into the city, or remade as their own. If she had seen all the tunnels dug into this level, from the base of walls, from ceilings, she had ignored that too. Ways in too small for a human being, but not for other things. So, into this level. It was making me think of high rise a little bit, but again, what's going on? We've got different things going on with settings now, haven't we? We've got a city that has obviously been damaged and ruined, and then we've got rooms in this building brought out into the city. So, what is the function of this building and its rooms? That word ransacked. It's making me think that provisions are in short supply. People are having to appropriate different things. I used to dream that this was real, the magician said. I've maybe not photocopied or typed that out properly. I used to dream it was real and I would be able to pass through to the other side, but there is no other side now. What a terrible pity. I could have done even more over there. Still, studying it may be of some use. Okay, making me think of things to do with hope or lack thereof. The idea of an utopia. Just a reminder that's a utopia within a dystopia. Remember, Margaret Atwood has said that it's never one or the other solely. It will always be, think of O'Brien, That's not a dystopian world, it's a utopian one, so it's always a blend. No, the magician had come right here. This was the treasure for her. She wanted another chance at resurrection. She wanted another chance. And that took more biotech, and here we were, standing in a cavern on a level that, even stripped of most things, still contained enough treasures for someone like the magician to start over, with a little help. Okay, cavern is an interesting word, isn't it, to use in the context of like a man-made building. It suggests something natural, but a bit ominous. And obviously we've got the biotech is referred to as treasure. So that's a metaphor, but it's also, I don't know if I want to use the word ironic, but our narrator certainly doesn't view them as treasure. Oh, and our narrator is a woman, which I knew because I'd done a skim, scan, scour, and I've obviously read the book. Who knows what will happen out in the city, Rachel, the magician said. No one can know what we'll return to, but I know you, Rachel. I know your life. We could make common cause. You could help me. I can protect you. I can make sure you want for nothing. You deserve that for leading me here. All right. So an interesting exchange here. Well, not exchange, an interesting bit of dialogue. Something about power and manipulation is going on here, isn't it? I know you, I know your life. I can make sure you want for nothing. Quite a big promise to make, isn't it, in a dystopian world to somebody. Would she next ask me to abandon Wick? Was she that desperate? Who's Wick? We might assume that's somebody important, to Rachel at least. I couldn't tell you. She stood there before me in her tattered cloak and asked me to join the same cause that destroyed children, that experimented on children, and told the world that there was a good reason, the way the world always wanted to be reassured, because that was the easier path. Ooh, right, so now we're into something. What's happened to these children? Children sacrificed, ill, dead. She's got a tattered cloak. So we're back to identity and clothing. And certainly something, that thing about being a magician, but her cloak is tattered. And look at this word cause. We often get an ideology, don't we, in a dystopian world. Yes, I have got a cough. And yes, I am self-isolating. But the last time I checked, germs can't come through the computer. So what kind of ideology might be being suggested here? And our narrator goes on to say, and the terrible thing is that it wasn't such a bad choice for me, looking at it with the eyes of a scavenger, a cutthroat. So this is somebody else who is trying to survive, like these weird foxes who've ransacked, by making morally questionable decisions. I don't feel very ill. I just got a massive headache. Just feel a bit run down. It was what had gained her so much power, providing security, food, territory. It had made her a leader, no matter what you thought of who she led and how. No matter that she was on the run, she was still alive. Right. So now we know what are the things that people want. Think in a society: security, food, territory. That's an interesting one, isn't it? Something that doesn't really come up in 1984 Handmaid's Tale, but security and food. That, you know, thinking about Offred and how she reconciles her survival through the fact that she's at least in this household. So priorities for survival change in a dystopian world and can be exploited. She was on the run. Interesting. Fugitive. Why? Because she's a magician. It's making me want to reread this book now. And I could tell you much more about your past, Rachel, than you even know. Those blank spaces, what you don't know, I know what they should contain. Right, so we know that the past and identity are intrinsically linked in many dystopian novels. Intrinsically linked. It's painful, isn't it? It's painful to watch. But I love this. What they should contain. Not what they do, or what they might, but that word should. So again, that's about control. That's making us straight away think of Big Brother, isn't it? Okay, one of the things that was suggested in an email is that if I talk about what would go into an introduction, particularly to do with AO3, well, let's think about this then. We know there's something here about biotech. There's weird stuff going on with potentially another world, a world that's seen through a screen. So is it real or is it just something isolated? And then as we move down and we see this thing about the children, that's where we start to think, right, this word born then, well, what does that mean in this context? Well, it sounds, doesn't it, like the word born, like a child is born. Maybe some new society has been born. Again, it really doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. We're not expecting you. In fact, we'd prefer it if you hadn't read the book. And we've got 2017, a few years ago this book was written. So what we've got are obviously concerns that are being raised in our world at the moment about the use of biotechnology, about whenever there's any new kind of technology in any area that comes along, it causes anxiety about how it will be managed, who has control of it, can it be exploited, and can it be used to exploit. So basically that's all I'd put in. Something that, you're speculating, you're thinking, okay, this is interesting, and I know these things are concerns. Equally, there seems to be something wrong with the world, maybe environmentally, and that's another big concern, isn't it? So I think we've pulled out a lot of interesting ideas there. How would I start to arrange them then? So I've done my annotation. So I'm thinking, there's identity. Yeah, I'll tell you what there is before that though. Silly Julie. Talk about setting, don't we? And that's of the world and the building itself. Identity. Who's in this text? Who is this magician? Oh, magical person. And who is Rachel? What do they seem to be doing? Who has power in this? We don't get much description of Rachel, but obviously Rachel doesn't know much about her past. So we've got the past and memories, and we've got power and information. And we've got some weird stuff, haven't we? We've got some really weird stuff going on. So how can we talk about the weird stuff? Well, often in dystopian worlds, things that are familiar to us are made unfamiliar. They've gone a bit wrong. So, like what's the deal with these foxes that seem to be working as some kind of cohesive gang? They're kind of setting stuff up. And then we want to talk about, I'm putting damage. This thing about the children. That'll do us for now, right? We're in a very weird situation. I'm going to set this as an activity to do that will be handed in. It's Friday today, isn't it? I'm going to set you one thing to hand in every week. I think that's really important. Second years, yeah, who knows, you might find out today that you don't need to do another bit of work. But also maybe you love your subject and you want to learn more about it, and you kind of want to keep occupied and keep practicing those skills, especially those of you who know that these skills are going to be important for your next stage of your lives, uni or career. Right? So let's not turn into lazy baggages. I'm going to make another little video. I'll try and post a little video every day just with some suggestions of what to do, who to listen to, what to read. So I think that'll do us for now. Good stuff.